In American society, money is a taboo topic. We're taught at a young age it's improper to talk about it, but we're also bombarded with messages about the power and importance of money in our everyday lives. And by not talking about it, we miss out on the skills and lessons we need to effectively understand and financially plan. That changes today. Welcome to Money Tales. Hosted by Sandy Brager and Cami Doder, Money Tales brings more than 35 years of combined professional experience in personal finance to demystify money and demonstrate what it's like to speak openly about personal financial matters. Join us each episode as they interview modern-day movers and shakers about how money decisions intertwine with their daily lives in order to give you better insight into productive financial conversations. Subscribe today and register for our blog Fathom at aspiriant.com/podcasts to increase your money mojo. And now, here's Cami and Sandy.
This episode is all about the importance of sharing our money stories to drive us toward better financial literacy, which leads to better decision-making. Joel Franks is our guest this week on Money Tales. On his daily commute from Westchester to New York City, Joel befriended a man, let's call him Ben, who seemed to have it all together. Confident and well-dressed, Ben earned close to $1 million a year, yet he was financially stretched, juggling an expensive lifestyle. That's when Joel realized financial success isn't just about income, it's about behavior. Let me tell you more about Joel. He's the founder of FinWizdom, as well as an adult financial literacy facilitator. Joel is an accomplished financial content developer, award-winning author, educator, and trailblazer in applying behavioral finance to connect with an audience. He's the author of Creating Wealth Starts with Financial Health, an international bestseller. Joel's mission is to help individuals and organizations recognize behavioral risks and learn how to accommodate, not ignore them.
Here are 3 key money topics Joel hits on in this conversation. First, don't focus on being rich. Instead, look to create an income that sustains your desired lifestyle. Regardless of how much money you're making, if you can't cover your spending needs, you could be one paycheck away from being broke. Second, the importance of financial literacy. It's not just about the math. It's also understanding the behavioral biases and vulnerabilities that can get in the way. And third, how storytelling is one of the best methods for teaching financial literacy because the messages and emotions help land sticky concepts. Now it's our pleasure to bring you Joel Franks' Money Tales.
Welcome to the Money Tales podcast. I'm Cami Doder.
And I'm Sandy Brager. Cami, a topic that comes up on Money Tales all the times is risk. Our guests share with us risks that they take in their life, usually related to their careers, whether it's a job they're taking or leaving, whether it's a company they're starting. Those are the most common risks. And when we extend this idea of risk to the work we do at Experian with our clients, there are a lot of risks that we think about with clients in personal financial planning. There's the risk of outliving your money. There's the risk of not outliving your money and actually having an untimely death. There is the risk of not getting the investment return you need, of your home burning down or getting flooded or being shaken away in an earthquake. There's so many risks. One of the risks that we've been seeing so much that it seems many people are not paying attention to is cybersecurity risk.
Oh, it's so sad and scary.
I wanted to talk about this briefly because I just wanted to make sure our listeners are thinking about this. One of the easiest ways to prevent cybersecurity risk or identity theft is to be very diligent about what you're clicking, or more importantly, what you're not clicking. And when it comes to financial services websites that you use, whether it's for a bank or a credit card or a brokerage firm, setting up dual factor authentication is really important. That's when financial institution sends you a code or sends you to a certain app to get a code in order to log into your accounts. Another aspect that I really like is freezing your credit. Now, this can be a little tedious if you're someone who needs to rely on your credit to apply for a new loan, whether it's a mortgage, a car loan, a credit card. If you freeze your credit with the major credit rating agencies, you can always thaw that freeze before you need a creditor to go in and run your credit. By freezing your credit, you're making sure that no one else can apply for a credit card in your name. Pretend to be you if your credit is frozen.
These are such important tips.
There's more. I could go on, but it's just something to be really aware of. There's a lot of great lists out there. If you're interested in learning more about it, please come to our website at experience.com and start a dialogue with us. And we'd be happy to share with you some other ideas. I just can't emphasize enough the importance of being vigilant and protecting your identity and your personal finances.
You really have to be cynical, skeptical. When you get an email and it just looks odd. I just got one today where it actually didn't look that odd, but it was weird to get an invoice in this manner. And luckily, this person found out she'd been hacked and sent an email to her community. And golly, they just get more and more sophisticated. It's just really unbelievable.
Vigilance, protect your assets.
There you go. That's the tagline. Well, it's my pleasure to welcome our guest today, Joel Franks. We're really excited to be talking with you today on Money Tales.
Thanks, Cami. Thanks, Sandy. I'm pretty excited to be here, and I really love the introduction about the cybersecurity. Those are really excellent tips.
So important. Joel, would you introduce yourself and share a couple pivotal moments that have taken place in your life that really impacted who you are?
My calling in life is financial literacy. I help people understand why they do what they do with money, but it's by infusing behavioral economics and financial storytelling. That's why I love and I'm honored to be here on Money Tales, because it highlights the essential need for financial literacy. I build a lot of behavioral marketing strategies for financial firms. I teach at NYU and CUNY. I'm the host of one of my own podcasts with financial literacy. And I'm also an award-winning author. I wrote a book last year that won the Financial Literacy Book for Adults in 2024. The name of the book is Creating Wealth Starts with Financial Health. It's got cute green pig on the cover. Big green piggy bank.
I love talking about financial health because for me, I can always get better at having financial health.
And that's why, again, it connects well with what the two of you are working on Money Tales is you want to make a conversation that anyone could absorb and digest and take with them and build better financial habits. That's what I like to do, whether it's the consulting or the teaching or the writing. My goal is always to help people recognize those behavioral risks. So you started off with cybersecurity risks, right? I'm getting into behavioral risks that impact your financial decisions. So I want to equip people with strategies to overcome them.
What's your favorite financial habit in your life?
My favorite financial habit is ensuring and still maintaining I'm completely debt-free. I do not have not even a mortgage, nothing. And that comes from, you don't need to make oodles and oodles of money. In fact, most people aren't necessarily trying to be rich. They just don't want to be poor. And really what you're trying to do is establish a lifestyle sustaining income. We can definitely go into my childhood and where I came from because this was not always the case. So I'm glad you went around the backward because I'm not going to say I came from a well-to-do family and didn't have to do much and I already had it. I did not.
Tell us about your upbringing. And in particular, when did money start having meaning to you?
I'm a Gen Xer. So my parents didn't talk about relationships with money. They talked about the lack of it.
Were they talking or are they like my parents who were yelling about it?
You're right, Sandy. They were yelling, a lot of yelling about it. And that hasn't changed, unfortunately, sometimes from generation to generation either, because it's one of the most stressful things in our life. And it is something that we do not feel comfortable always talking about. And I came from a lower middle income family, heavily dependent, right, on dad's income. My mom worked part-time and then she ended up working full-time as I got older. But we always seemed to be a paycheck away from being broke.
And you knew that because they were talking to you about it?
Let's say if a bill came up or something came up, you'd hear we didn't have the money or it was an unexpected expense. I wouldn't say they were the best at budgeting, and most aren't. And even today, with all the financial literacy, sometimes we are not. So they were good, though. They covered the basics, but there are no extras. There's no allowance. They did encourage me, though, over the age of 8. I opened up a passbook savings account. And that small act changed everything. So every time you went to a bank, you saw the interest added to the book, right? You bring in this passbook to the bank. What they used to do, folks who don't know this, it looked like a passbook. You know how your passbook gets stamped by the countries you go to? Well, in a bank, you would have to bring that every month and they'd run it to a machine and it would show you on a printed out line how much interest you were.
Talk about behavioral reinforcement. Every time that stamp happened, if the number was going up, that felt really good.
Yeah, it did. We have other things today, apps and such that maybe use badges in place of that per se, but it taught me something very powerful. It taught me money can grow. It also gave me important lessons about independence. When my parents said no to things that I wanted, whether it was because they were too expensive or just not a priority for the family budget, I had that little savings in my small world to say yes. The next pivotal moment had to be that I was saving up for a moped. And again, for those who are not as familiar with moped, think about today's e-bikes, except it was gas powered. It wasn't just about the freedom that came with it. It was about the freedom to get around, but the freedom to start working and earning my own money. And I've been working ever since.
Joel, I keep thinking risk, by the way. When you say moped, I think risk, but keep going, keep going.
I was very good. I wore a helmet.
But you're getting independence from this purchase.
And the opportunity to make money, which is interesting.
The other side of it, and I'd have to go slightly backward because when I was as young as 6 years old until about, I would say 16, almost every summer I used to see my grandparents out in California. I was in the East Coast. They were in the West Coast. They lived in the LA area. My mother was from there, and they played a huge role from a financial perspective because what I didn't learn from my parents, there were some things I learned from them, but they also showed me ways of giving back. My grandmother, I've always was in this car going grocery shopping with them, always stopping by and visiting these acquaintances. And she was always like giving or taking something, whether it was like a basket of fruit or a gift or something, even to children underprivileged at his school. And my grandfather, he at that time was still working part-time at this linen factory. And he taught me about maintaining inventory, which fascinated me. And all these experiences taught me that money isn't just about accumulating wealth. It's also about helping others. And also money can help do other things. Definitely a lot learning there.
I'm curious, Joel, based on this well-rounded experience around money growing up, when did you get the financial literacy bug?
A little later in life. And what's interesting is I actually was really into the toys and the toy industry. I wanted to create certain types of toy design, but they wanted you to have an MBA. And so I did work at a lot of known toy store names after I got out of college because I wasn't ready to go back for an MBA. And when I did, I ended up working for a credit union. And I learned a lot about finances there. I learned about basic banking products and services because not only was I involved with it as a teller, this call may be monitored for quality, that would be me. I started getting into financial services. And when I had my degree, I ended up making it big. I got a big job. I worked for Morgan Stanley. I got in there. I was just senior marketing sales associate. And within a year, I learned a lot and I became their assistant vice president when AVP actually meant something in the world. But what was interesting about all of this is something I don't share and most people don't know about me. Here I am, a big shot. I was married. I'm in my second marriage today, but back then I was in my other marriage and my ex-wife was doing very well. And I was feeling like I was finally making it. But I got to tell you, I was really making it by what? My career? I had tons. And then we had a divorce around that time. I had tons of credit card debt. Here I am. Am I really making it? I was struggling.
So your financial health was not what you would advocate today.
No, I was waiting for the big bonus to pay back the money and start all over again the next year.
And what was driving the credit card debt?
Well, there was a lot going on. Not because my ex was looking for the money. We both happened to have a problem with our home that we sold and getting sued. And it created all kinds of problems because we were living in two different places, paying a mortgage on a third. And it created a real horrible financial burden. One of my biggest moments was at the time I lived north of the city in Westchester County. So I would commute into the city every morning. And I got to know this guy, and I'll just give him the name Ben. And he was dressed more professionally than I was. You could feel like this level of confidence, and he seemed to always have it all together. And you get to know them. Every day I'm getting up, I'm waiting for the train, I'm meeting Ben. As we got to know each other, he opened up about his financial struggles. And here's this person who's probably making $1 million a year, but he's overextended. He's juggling a big house. He's talking about these luxurious vacations, private school for his 2 kids. And that's when it hit me. Whether you're making $100,000 a year or $1 million a year, without the right financial literacy, you can still be one paycheck away from being broke. And where I'm driving with this conversation is that our society has an issue with financial literacy. And it's not just about the math. This is the other part of it. There are countless programs that teach people how money works, budgeting, investing, compound interest. But knowing the math is only half the battle. And the real challenge is having awareness about your behavioral biases and variability, the things that make us human, but cause us to make irrational financial decisions and create behavioral risks. And that's why even when we have high net worth investors, they've done a pretty good job of getting their money where it is today. Why would they need help? Why would they go to someone? Why would they need, let's say, a financial advisor? Because it's not just about the math. It's about having a behavioral coach, someone who helps you manage those emotions, the biases, the blind spots that can derail you, even with the best of plans made.
So is this conversation with Ben where the light bulb is shining brightly over your head? And what do you do with that? Because there's so much pressure in our society to live a certain lifestyle. Many people fall into the trap of meeting society's expectations without even thinking through what is the priority for themselves. What lifestyle do they really want to be having?
That is exactly right. What makes it different and what changes it is the ideas and taboos about money. We like to brag about the good. It's almost like today's social media. People love to brag about how well something's going. No one's going to share where they're failing at something. But doing this by meeting Ben and talking about it makes me realize you're not alone and you're not feeling stupid. It wasn't overnight that all of a sudden I was able to repair things. It took a long time to get to where I sit and being like, I have no debt anymore. I don't carry anything. Therefore, I don't need as much either. And I'm not stuck somewhere. I can go anywhere I need to if I want to and sell the place, but I'm not stuck figuring out how much your next mortgage is going to be. What I learned is that's what got me on my trail, even in financial marketing, is we should be talking to what triggers people. How can you help people who feel certain ways? And everyone feels a little differently. They're all tripped up by different types of behaviors. I went on a pursuit of a lot of different education. I have a BA, an MBA, a mini MBA, 2 certifications from some very prominent schools. I'm now what they call a CEPF, a certified educator in personal finance. If you're going to talk about financial literacy, you need to talk about behavioral economics because understanding the numbers is one thing. Understanding ourselves, that's another. And there's a few behavioral biases out there that impact our financial decisions.
Knowing what you know now, looking back to that time period where you met Ben, what biases were going through your mind at that time, Joel?
Now that I teach so many of them, the biggest one is always loss aversion. I'm going to make this really short, quick example of it. And there's no right or wrong answer. But if you ask someone you have $1,000 in your pocket and you say you've got 2 choices, you flip a coin. A, heads, I'll give you another 1,000. Tails, you get nothing else. Or choice B, I'll just pay you $500. Now, again, no right or wrong answer, but a lot of people take that guaranteed $500. But then you change the question. Well, if all of a sudden you have $2,000 in your pocket and you say, I'll flip a coin, but this time if you land on heads, you pay me $1,000. Or tails, you don't have to pay me anything and you get to keep the $2,000. Or guess what? Don't take the chance. Just pay up. Give me $500. Now, it is a slightly different percentage, but still more people, they're going to take the risk this time. They're going to flip the coin because they don't want to lose the money. And yet both of these questions the probabilities are exactly the same. This is called loss aversion. So that was one thing. Realizing that it's perception, realizing that this stuff is tripping up how we make financial decisions. Those fears really mess us up. Anchoring is another big one. I could even say framing things, how we frame things. Both of you are asking about Ben, and what was the aha moment is I could talk about it in terms of food. It's like you going in the grocery store when you look at the potato chips and you're seeing something and it says 5% less fat. If you saw a bag of chips right next to it and it said only 95% fat, it's the same bag of chips, but which are you going to choose? And realizing these things is a real aha moment. I'm going to tell one other one that I think is really important to talk about also for people listening, so they don't feel dumb or they feel inadequate, because we all get into these traps. And it's called mental accounting. This is when we bucket things into these funky little lists of ours. Bad mental bucket accounting is I have a $150 grocery store budget and I live up to it. I'm running low on food, but you know what? I can't wait till this Friday to go out with Leslie and Jonathan because and go to this really nice restaurant we've been dying to go to, and I'll spend $150 there. Good job, right? I ran out of money. I stayed at my budget for the grocery. So we do these things with mental accounting. These are just a couple of different types of behavioral risks that trip us up. And I don't want to say behavioral biases are bad, because it's the way you look at it. I could talk about mental accounting and bucketing, and anyone who's just into retirement planning, well, yeah, I just talked about bad bucketing, but good bucketing could be, well, what if I bucket my retirement money into early retirement, late retirement, and legacy? That could make sense. So it's not that it's necessarily bad. This is the biggest problem, by the way, is about when we talk about this behavior, every academia, all the readings, you can read tons of articles and advice, and they'll say how to take the emotions out of your financial decision-making. And it's not the right question. It's how are you going to accommodate your behavior? And there's ways of leveraging your behavior to make things work well. I've come a long way being riddled with credit card debt, mortgages, car loans. Today I have zero debt. It's not just about the financial security. It goes back to the moped, I guess, and about freedom. And my focus is on the lifestyle sustaining income, meaning I don't need to chase a bigger paycheck to enjoy life.
Not having debt makes you live your life more free.
Absolutely.
It just gives you more peace of mind that you don't have to worry about some of the things that you worried about earlier in your life that caused, obviously, a lot of duress for you.
There is good debt and bad debt. This is a choice. But again, you have to figure out your own behavior. You have to figure out what trips you up. Good debt, bad debt, regardless, it's about your lifestyle sustaining income. That's why I do what I do today. Being a teacher, giving young adults the knowledge and the confidence to take control of their financial future, hopefully much sooner than I did. And if I can help them recognize those behavioral biases and build healthy financial habits early, they can avoid some of those pitfalls that derailed so many people.
What a gift. I think it's really important. I was listening to your most current podcast, and it was season 5, and you referenced that it was, I believe, inspired by Daniel Pink's book, Around the Power of Regret. And we had the pleasure of talking to Daniel Pink. His episode came out the start of 2025, which we thought was great, right as you're thinking about New Year's resolutions. And I'm curious, what's been one of your most telling regrets? Because what I love is the power of them, especially around money. What did it tell you about what you valued?
I really feel what Daniel Pink doesn't necessarily say, but what he conveys is switching to more of a stoic point of view. He goes over 4 different types of regrets in his book. Regardless is don't beat yourself up on it. I think really what it comes down to is instead of saying, I failed, maybe I'll do this or maybe that, being more stoic. If it's something that's really meaningful for you, learn from it, build from it, go back at it again. Believe me, I'm human too. Even happiness and regrets, these are all temporary emotions. Do I get angry? Do I feel regret? Yes. The question is how long do you want to feel that regret? How long do you want to stay angry? Or do you want to use it? So what have I learned from the regret? Turning it around to make it energy, positive inferences. That's why I love talking about these things. I love your podcast about money tales, because I think that's where this is at too. It does the same. It's talking and having conversations about money, and always about how we teach it through storytelling. In storytelling, it sticks. They make abstract concepts real. They help us recognize our own behaviors and others.
And our emotions. I think that's really important. That's what draws us in.
Yeah, our emotions, our real life experiences, our own financial habits. Hopefully, again, we'll all make some better decisions.
Joel, this has been a really fun conversation. What is your next money conversation going to be? And who's it going to be with?
I didn't think I was going to start teaching until many years from now. And it kind of fell in my lap. And I think what's next is, this is where I do feel good, is how we teach it. Everyone I meet, I love having that opportunity. Look, I don't make money from the book or from the podcast or from teaching. One school pays me nothing. The other school pays me double of nothing, which is nothing. I make all the money from consulting, but I do it because it's my way of really touching people, my altruism, my way of making that difference. So I could be in a car with an Uber or Lyft driver, for example. And I love it because the morning they're always like, oh, taking you to work. So what do you do? It's always a trick question. I've got 4 different hats on, 5 different hats on. But by the end, I always love telling them about this stuff. If I happen to have a book on me, I give it to the driver if they're a real good reader, or they'll listen to a podcast, or right away I see them asking what the title of the book is and they're going to get the book. I try not to make it expensive. Paperback is what it is, but the ebook, at least I can always make dirt cheap if anyone ever wants it. I'm not trying to gouge. I'm trying to get people to really help themselves. And just like all 3 of us are talking about right now, we're not alone. We can do this. I can create a lifestyle sustaining income. And I always tell them, sometimes they feel bad. I'm driving a car. I wanted to do something else or something. Like, you've got freedom. You can choose when to stop today, when to start. If it's a good day, yeah, you get a cup of coffee, you keep going. It's not always how much you make. It's making more wise financial decisions. It's not always about the best performance on the stock market. It's always what's aligned to you. And yes, we want wealth accumulation, but wealth accumulation is income for the future.
Joel, really important concepts and ideas. Before we let you go, where's the best place for listeners to find you?
So the best place to find me is FinWizdom, like financial wisdom, but FinWizdom.com. You can find out a lot more about me there, the book, podcast. I'm also available in other places too, and look forward to launching more of my series. But I also want everyone to make sure you're listening to Money Tales. This is a great place to get a refresher and hearing other people's stories as well.
Thanks, Joel.
And they didn't ask me to pitch this. I'm telling you, this is great stuff. And don't lose out on when stuff is there for you to hear and give you a positive, start your day positive.
Thanks for sharing your stories and your insights. That's really important.
Thanks so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to the Money Tales podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you think would benefit from listening. And leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Your ratings and reviews help more people find our podcast. If you're inspired to gain clarity and peace of mind about financial matters, don't hesitate to reach out to our team at Experiant. Go to Experiant.com/start a dialogue. Or you can email Sandy and me at podcasts@Experiant.com. See you next time.